There's a good chance, right now, there's a coin sitting in your pocket, your drawer, or maybe even in an old jar at home that looks completely ordinary, but could actually have a story that goes far deeper than you'd ever expect. And today, we're talking about one of those coins, the 1944 Lincoln Wheat penny. At first glance, it doesn't seem special. It's just a penny. But what if I told you this exact year hides one of the most fascinating twists in American coin history? Something most people completely overlook? Let me take you back to the final years of World War II. The United States was deep in the war effort, and essential metals like copper were urgently needed for ammunition and military supplies. In 1943, the U.S. Mint made a drastic decision. They stopped using copper for pennies and switched to steel. That's why those shiny, silver-colored 1943 pennies exist. But in 1944, things changed again. The mint returned to copper, but not fresh copper. Much of it came from recycled wartime shell casings. That means when you hold a 1944 penny, you're literally holding a small piece of history, metal, that may have once been part of the battlefield. But here's where the story takes a turn. Because something unexpected happened inside the mint. A2T, few leftover steel blanks from 1943 were accidentally used in 1944. And just like that, a coin was created that technically shouldn't exist. A2 1944 penny, made of steel instead of copper. These coins look completely different from normal ones. Instead of a warm brown or reddish tone, they appear silver. And because this mistake was so rare, only a tiny number are known to exist today. Now imagine discovering one of these. You're going through an old jar of coins, maybe something passed down from a family member. You pull out a 1944 penny. At first it seems ordinary, until you notice the color feels off. It's not copper, it's silver. That small moment of confusion quickly turns into curiosity. You grab a magnet just to test something. And suddenly, it reacts. That tiny pull could mean everything. Because steel coins respond to magnets, copper ones don't. But let's be clear, because this matters. Not every 1944 penny is valuable. In fact, most of them were produced in huge numbers across different mints like Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. These common versions are still collectible, especially in better condition. But they're usually worth only a small amount. The real value comes from rare variations, errors, and condition. And that's where collectors start paying serious attention. Now here's something most people never realize: condition can completely change everything. Two coins from the same year can have dramatically different values depending on how well they've been preserved. A heavily worn coin with faded details might be worth very little, while a sharp, clean example with strong details can attract real interest. Collectors look closely at Lincoln's face, the wheat stalks on the back, and even the color tone of the coin. Every tiny detail matters. But wait, because this is only half the story. The real difference between an ordinary coin and a collectible one comes down to something deeper: attention to detail. Collectors don't just see coins, they study them. And hidden in those small details is where the real story lives. Picture this. Someone in the U.S. is casually going through an old collection left behind by their father. No expectations, just curiosity. They come across a 1944 penny. It looks normal, but something feels slightly different. The color isn't quite right. It's subtle, but enough to make them pause. Instead of ignoring it, they decide to take a closer look. They don't clean it, because cleaning can actually damage a coin's value. Instead, they use a magnifying glass and begin to examine it carefully. The surface texture seems unusual. The shine doesn't match what they expected. Even the weight feels just a little different. Curiosity grows, so they try a simple test: a magnet. For a moment, nothing happens. Then suddenly, a slight pull. That tiny reaction is enough to change everything. Because now, this isn't just a coin anymore. It's a possibility. At this point, the next step becomes important. Many collectors turn to professional grading services like PCGS or NGC. These organizations authenticate coins, evaluate their condition, and seal them in protective holders. And here's the truth. A properly graded coin often holds more trust and can carry higher value than one that hasn't been verified, even if they look similar at first glance. Here's something even more interesting. Sometimes it's not just about rarity or condition, it's about the story behind the coin. Coins that come from old family collections or historical periods carry emotional weight. They represent real moments in time, real people, real lives, and collectors feel that connection. That's one of the biggest reasons why coins like the 1944 wheat penny still matter today, even in a world where physical money is slowly fading. And here's a surprising fact. Even though billions of 1944 pennies were made, finding one in truly high-grade condition today is actually difficult. These coins were used every day, spent, exchanged, worn down over time. So while they're common in general, exceptional examples are much harder to find. And the details, because sometimes value doesn't shout, it whispers. So the next time you come across a 1944 penny, don't ignore it. Take a closer look. Check the color. Try a magnet. Look for those small details that others might miss, because hidden in plain sight could be a mistake, a story, or even a piece of history waiting to be discovered. If you enjoyed this journey into the hidden world of coins, make sure to subscribe to HF Coins World. And before you go, check your own coins. You might already have something far more interesting than you think.